Hi guys, today I'm going to be reviewing Netflix's recent romantic comedy, The Wrong Missy. This came out on May 13th. It's starring David Spade and Lauren Lapkus. I was really excited to actually see Netflix putting out a romantic comedy, and with currently us all being in Corona, it's actually kind of was exciting to see, something that could entertain us and kind of just take us out of our current lives. And this is a genre that I actually really love when it's pulled off well, to see the kind of the romance and some of the elements, and the overall these can just be a lot of fun. I hadn't seen David Spade movies in a long time. So I'm not overly familiar with David Spade's work, although I've seen him around in many things. And then Lauren Lapkus, I just had recognized from The Orange Is the New Black. This movie starts off really solid. David Spade is our protagonist, and he starts off on this blind date being set up with Lauren Lapkus, who is the most outrageous first date that you have ever really seen. And that's a little bit of her work in this is totally incredible. She's a really amazing comedic actress with a huge range. And David Spade is doing what I had seen him previously do, which is playing like a relatively cool kind of normal guy who often plays straight to the zany character. And so he can be kind of funny when someone else is acting totally crazy, and he can kind of, support that craziness. So now Lauren in this first scene, it's the absolute worst start of a first date that you've ever had. She's like, it's really kind of a little bit hard to understand exactly what's going on with her, because she's super energetic and overly sexualized and aggressive in every way, and kind of completely outgoing, and just like has no filter at all. And you just kind of really get this sense that this is there's not even a question whether this is going to work. You immediately want to get away from this person. She's just way, way, way too much. So that date goes on, and then 6 months later, we see him back to his normal life. We do get to know that he had recently gone through a breakup where he was cheated on by his ex-fiancée. So that's kind of his backstory going into this. So 6 months after the terrible first date, he's over at his work, and he's got a best friend who is, like a little bit overly aggressively kind of spying on him. So once again, this kind of crazy world around him where he's trying to be a normal person, but he's got this best friend who's checking up on him and kind of breaking in and following him with his passwords. And, ultimately, this is the kind of the cliche of trying to set this guy up to, find the next romance or whatever. So in the next scene, we see him now. He's off to take a flight on for business, and then he runs into this other Melissa. So the first date was named Melissa, and he runs into this new Melissa, who is essentially like the perfect woman for him. She's actually like an ex-beauty pageant winner, and they accidentally bump into each other and then switch bags. So they're so similar that they end up having the exact same luggage, and then it turns out that they were reading the exact same book. And before, we had found out that David Spade's character doesn't drink, and she also doesn't drink. So it looks like it's just this perfect match. But they're about to get on other flights. So with the time that they have, they end up going and making out in the janitor's closet. And she has to run off to catch her flight. And then he texts her his number. And then so they're going to continue to correspond. So shortly after that, he gets a text saying, this is Melissa. And so he starts responding to her. Now, this is a really fun moment, because whether you are, as an audience member, are already getting it that he's going to be texting the other Missy, that it's actually, he's getting the text now from the Melissa that he had the terrible first date with, or not, it's still a fun moment, because he's going through, texts that would be appropriate and kind of judging himself. And up to this point in the movie, I was like, this was kind of refreshing. It was nice to see a movie start off with this kind of energy, and it was nice to see the tone. And overall, I was really excited about, like, where is this going to go? Is he going to, how is this going to happen? And so he's texting the wrong girl. And then sure enough, there's going to be a big business trip. And he's telling everybody about this beauty queen girl that he's got. And he invites Melissa to come to the trip with him. And she shows up, and it's the other Melissa. And so now he's stuck with her on this business trip, trying to get through this whole weekend where he's trying to impress a new boss to be, and he's got this awful date with him. So it looks like it's going to be total disaster. And now here we're introduced to essentially like a resort where we have all these other characters, and all these zany characters from his business are going to be going through these different type of exercises and kind of these insane corporate team building exercises to impress the new boss. So at one point they go out there on a boat and they're going through this, seeing the sharks exhibition, and that goes into this outrageously zany situation where the Melissa, she's actually on purpose throwing chum into the water to liven things up a little bit. So this movie kind of gets a little bit out of control for me, where it's funny, but the engine of the story kind of starts falling apart, where it's like, so now he's in this situation, he's trying to manage it. I don't think that David Spade particularly does a very good job within this situation, where it just is kind of so out of control that one scene kind of goes to the next. And there are some pretty funny moments, but overall, the level of comedy in this is kind of a little bit that lewd sex comedy that kind of came from, like, the late 90s, the 2000s. So, we haven't seen this genre too much, and this is kind of an example of, why the genre had kind of gotten out of style, is that some of it is a little bit kind of, it feels a little aged, kind of. It's the David Spade, it's the Adam Sandler is the production company on this. And so, I like these movies, and I do give them a break because the tone can really go far, but ultimately, I felt like the engine of the story fell apart. So to carry on, essentially what happens is that he ends up figuring out, the real Melissa, and he's talking to the real Melissa, and then he gets a chance to get the real Melissa out to his resort. And then, at this point, sure enough, he's kind of gotten involved enough with the other Missy that he's actually started to get feelings for her. And so now he actually realizes that maybe he wants to be with her, and then sure enough, they come together. My big problem with this is that these stories really work well when you've got two characters that are both protagonists, both going through arcs. And for me, Lauren Lapkus's performance in this is really quite incredible, but I'm not entirely sure what she was supposed to be playing or why she's acting this crazy. And ultimately, this kind of falls flat for me. These rom-coms are really hard because if they're not funny, then they end up being like Hallmark kind of cheesy, overly emotional films. And if they don't have the right heart, then they end up kind of being, raunchy rom-coms that, kind of don't really work and kind of fall apart. So overall, I'm being a little harsh on this film because I kind of do love this genre when it's pulled off well. And I thought, in the beginning, I kind of had high hopes for it. I thought that there were some interesting things. I was kind of curious to see how this could be done well, and it just kind of fell flat and it became predictable. And then the unpredictable stuff were just actors, really funny, great comedic actors, doing this kind of improvisational stuff that doesn't advance the storyline at all. So I would say I would give this a recommendation if you just kind of want to, like a brainless, comedy and kind of forget about something. But I wouldn't get your hopes up too high. I'd give it a C, like it's a C movie. The performances are pretty darn good. It has a good tone to it, but I feel like if the writing was a little bit more solid, or the directing kind of had more of a storyline and things really worked, especially if like her character had an arc and you could really kind of see a little bit more about like why he would like to be with her. You kind of get a little bit of that moments, but it just felt like it was put in there out of necessity, not like the writer really believed in the story. So overall, it's a C movie. Anyway, so yeah, that's my review for The Other Missy. I'll be coming with you with more reviews really soon. Talk to you later.